Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Please pardon the noise, background noise of it sounds like gunshots. It's actually they're working on the corner at a house that was demolished and stuff. So first, before we get started, please take time out and help out the victims of the California wildfires. They really need our help and our assistance at all times. So do what you can. And so now we're into March. And as we're into March, of course, it's Women's History Month. So I'm doing everything possible to have a lot of women on the podcast, not just because they're beautiful, because they have expertise, lots of expertise to share with all of us. And so I'm starting out March with the very beautiful Selden Beylouni. She is a nervous system expert, and she is going to share some expertise and even answer any questions that you may have. If you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and she will be happy to answer them for you. Okay, so Selden, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate this opportunity.
You're truly welcome. And tell us who is the very beautiful Selden Beylouni?
Oh, thank you. So, I'm a somatic coach. I work a lot with the nervous system as an educator and with one-on-one clients. I have a few programs as well online. Mm-hmm. And so I weave together this nervous system work with quantum biology, which is just our relationship with the natural world and mm-hmm. sunlight and earth and what those things provide for us on a cellular level. I also weave together in my work German New Medicine, which is kind of the only documented scientific study we have on, I don't want to say the only, but it's a big one, on how emotional stress and what this doctor calls conflict results in physical symptoms. And it's a beautiful science and modality. So I use some detective work in that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also very intuitive. I use a lot of my psychic abilities, if you want to call it that, with my clients as well. And so I do a lot of intuitive development, which is just a fancy word for saying just growing this muscle of trusting ourselves again. Trusting our human body and looking at our symptoms more as signals and little clues for us and a pathway rather than our body has done something wrong. And I got into this work because I suffered from chronic symptoms since the age of 10. And it was quite debilitating. After I had my kids, I had many, many, many different symptoms. Too many to even count, honestly. I could count them probably, but a lot. I couldn't even remember them on the spot right now because I had many. But the biggest one that I always struggled with really since the age of 10, since the age of 5 was dissociation, which means you kind of feel like you've left your body. The world is kind of fuzzy. Things don't really seem real. It's a really intelligent survival skill that our bodies do when our environment or the world around us is not safe. And then at the age of 10, I started chronic fatigue started, kicking in quite big for me. And then chronic pain. And so those were the symptoms that I lived with for decades. And, did all kinds of different healing modalities to try to turn this around. And so, that's why I'm a health coach. I'm a hypnotherapist. I went through a lot of different trainings and did a lot of different things to try to heal myself until I got to this nervous system work. And this piece of like true embodiment and working with the survival stress that was really just wreaking havoc on my nervous system. That was really the big culprit to my chronic symptoms. And so who I am, if we take myself out of what I do, because oftentimes we answer this question, who I am, with what I do, people merge those two things. So if I take it out that, I am a person who is dedicated to helping others. I'm a person who believes I'm here, on a mission to help the greater good and to help people really turn in this time in history that we are on this like really amazing precipice right now, I feel like, of kind of an awakening. And so I think I'm here to assist that process for a lot of us. Yeah. And that's what I get really inspired by, actually. So.
Okay. Well, that's great. Now, I had just gotten through, and this is off a little bit. In the last podcast I did last week, last Monday to be precise, I went through a cleansing because I had a lot of negativity. But this is not nervous. This is not nervous system related.
I'm with you.
Yeah. So as getting through it, I realized I had so much negativity in me that it was killing me. So a friend of mine, who's also a healer, went through a little ritual with me via the phone, of all things, and I would never think that it would ever happen. Yeah. And before all was said and done, I was in tears, literally, because so much negativity was in me. I used to be my own worst enemy, and I always I still do. I still put everybody in front of me in reference to, or I would, if saying, for example, somebody tried to shoot at you, I'd step in front of you and protect you and take the bullet for you, stuff like that. I looked out for everybody else but me. So within the past couple of years, I actually started looking at me and say, hey, what's wrong with me? I wind up being diagnosed with anxiety, depression in 2009. And I was just diagnosed as diabetic in 2013. And when I did this, like I said, with this healing that got done last week, it was just mind blowing, to the point where now where I'm sitting, I don't know if anybody can see this. No.
There you go.
I have the little heart pendant that he sent me. So now it's like almost every day I go to it and I put my fingers to it, just to try to release everything out of me. But one definite thing I will say that has happened with me, and I really had it a long time, but I just made it a little bit more known within the past couple of years, is I have tremors in both my hands. And hands.
Oh, hands.
In the hands, yes. So I could, I'll turn around and I could sit here and look, and sometimes like my hands will start tremoring. And so I don't know if it's emotional stress, which I'm thinking it is. I made an attempt to go see a neurologist. It was supposed to be like within 2 weeks, but because they're like, oh, well, you can't self, so you can't like how can I say it this way?
Self-diagnose.
No, not the self-diagnosis. Self-refer yourself to them. So I went to the doctor's office. I thought they sent it electronically. They called me back. Oh, we have to cancel because we didn't get the referral. I was like, what? And I was so pissed off. And I even explained, I had gone to them before, so it wasn't like the first time I went to them. That's how they diagnosed me. And they were going to give me medication at the time for it. So, so they wound up canceling, which is a bitch. So, I'm it. So I'm trying to figure out what's really caused it. Why am I having these tremors? Why is this happening? Is it because of the diabetes from the being diabetic, or I do have heart issues, irregular heartbeat, angina, or it could be because of my weight, so on. But it's like you said, it's mainly like right now. If I'm looking, I can. It's not as bad.
So they're constantly just kind of shaking.
Yeah, like even if I sit and relax sometimes, or if something's real, but it gets to wind up being where there's always like more on my mind.
Yeah.
That causes it. So I mean, when I started this cleansing, so much came out of me. But the tremors of course, haven't left it. Of course, that's more, like I said, more of a physical disability than mental, or is it mental and I'm just not realizing it?
Well, diabetes and this sort of shaking response that your hand is doing, both of those things are indicative that there's a lot of fight flight, a lot of sympathetic energy that's kind of being trapped. So the body at some point wanted to express some sort of mobilization or movement to either try to escape or flee potentially a dangerous or threatening situation. And for whatever reason, that was thwarted. And that could be thwarted because escaping a dangerous situation could be more life-threatening to a person like a child than freezing, shutting down, and staying in that situation, right? Let's say if there's abuse or something like that. I'm not suggesting that there was, but in these types of, this is like just a scenario that could have been, caused these types of issues. And so, especially with the shaking, usually, but like, I can't obviously I'm not a doctor, so I can't diagnose or treat or anything like that, or even suggest, right? But based on my experience with the nervous system and what I have seen and what I know to be true about the flight response is that, yes, it's this, inability to carry out a movement or escape or run or flee or push or whatever we needed to do to try to protect ourselves. But whatever reason, that was thwarted, that was stuck, that those motions stayed frozen in the system. They were shut down. And the body has a memory, like somatic, there's a somatic memory inside of us. When something wasn't able to be carried through, like the body remembers and it kind of holds on to that energy. Right. And so then it's like, fast forward into adulthood or later on in life, when we have maybe more stress or we're in a situation that we want to get out of and we don't, and we kind of freeze or we stop ourselves, like these types of things can happen. A lot of people have the restless leg, the foot that moves constantly. And this is just indicative that the body wants to either move, it wants to get away. The psyche is perceiving some sort of threat, and the body is not responding appropriately to what the psyche needs, what that energy needs for whatever reason. And it could be that it can't, right? But when that action is not mobilized, then the body, there's a there's like a negative, impact that's kind of stuck, right? And so that's kind of what all this nervous system language is all about. In terms of the diabetes, it is our sympathetic nervous system that actually manages our blood sugar.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes sense. If there's anxiety and there's depression, that means fight flight is really, really dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And that is gonna, if the body is stuck in this type of survival response, then it's really natural, I guess, or a common response that the blood sugar would get disrupted. Our body's ability to regulate blood sugar, would get disrupted.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
It does. It really does. As a matter of fact, as you were talking, I mean, it's shaking a little bit now, because, like I said, I've got so much on my mind.
Well, I'm bringing stuff. I might be bringing something up in you.
Yeah.
Right? The memory in the body, you might not think the memory, but the body might have a recollection. It might feel it. There might be a sense. And that could be enough to kind of let it want to express, right?
Right. I mean, I was picked on when I was a kid, and when I was growing up, I kind of was restricted because, being the youngest, my parents were like really doing their best to protect me. I mean, they barely let me go out and or they let me go out and play and stuff, but I really kind of just like didn't. I mean, because my parents were working 2-3 jobs at a time, to raise all of us, because there were 7 of us at the time. And I'm the youngest of 7, and at the time growing up, it was me and my 2, and then my 3rd brother lived in Texas, my oldest brother, and he came up and he moved back to Jersey, and so I kind of like was like I can't say I was put to the side, but
that's a lot for a little one.
Yeah. So, but being in school, I was picked on, but recently, one of my classmates actually said that my ego was why I got picked on. And I'm like, my ego? Like, all I tried to be was nice to everybody. I tried to fit in, to society. And it was just that I didn't think I felt accepted. And I mean, of course, when Sears and Macy's, all these big stores at the time, if people had clothing from them, they were like high and mighty. But if you had Kmart, you were nothing, So that was another thing, because I was wearing Kmart clothes growing up, and that was another put down at me, that it kind of grew with me in reference to it, and it led me to something where I couldn't stand. I was starting to become my own worst enemy. I was really starting to hate me even, and it took like 40 plus years. And like I said, when I had this cleansing last week, I mean, I see a whole different person now. I mean, I starting to enjoy myself a little bit more. I'm starting to show some love. I mean, I of course still have the tremors, but that's, like I said, it's more.
Well, that all of that's going to take time. Like, it's going to be, nobody's going to like resolve everything in one healing session. If that was the case, like, we wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't be doing my work. I mean, sometimes somebody works with me for a year or 2. You know what I mean? And that work over time, the chronic symptoms start to resolve. Right. I've been on my journey for 4 years, 5 years. I don't have chronic fatigue and shutdown anymore, but that took time, it's about what we do in our daily life as well. We can't expect somebody to come and heal us, right? So if we aren't doing our own work, then those types of healings and those types of clearings, they don't last. They can maybe not last as long as like we want, right? And so then we have to go back and those types of things. So we always want to be doing like our own inner work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To resolve these older things.
Okay. Here's another thought I had as we've been, as I've been listening to you and everything. And I don't know if this could be part of why the tremors are happening, why in reference to it. How you mentioned about the stress and the diabetes. Could it be because, another thing I could say about me is within relationships, even with not just people, with former romantic relationships, I would try to call it, or would attempt to call it, could, because I was always cheated on. I wanted to be cheated on, and I think being with that, taking a blow to the, you think like if someone's going through a breakup right now, that it's really, really depressive, you think it could lead into something like what I have?
It's going to add to the issue, but I mean, truly, a person who has a really stable upbringing and healthy attachments to the parents and a healthy emotional state, and has gone through some of their patterns and programs and started to sort of rewire themselves, is not going to choose a partnership where someone is unfaithful. Okay. So my question would go back to, something likely felt out of alignment in the beginning, right? And we stay in something that's out of alignment because of our own wounds. Because of our own wounds, right? And so then the cheating just reiterates, it just deepens those sort of grooves that are already there, which is likely that people are not safe, and I don't know who I can trust in this world because nobody's taking care of me, and that type of, could be.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'm feeling right now in reference to relationship wise, because I just got divorced, officially filed the divorce after 15. Well, I mean, I was with my ex-wife really for 8, but it took 15 years to file the divorce because we couldn't afford it back then. So, it just finalized within the past year, in reference to it. So, I mean, that's the one thing. And like I said, the tremors, I made it a little bit well known, like 2022 in reference to it, but I had it longer than that. It's just, I was like, well, what's going on? Why am I having these tremors? I'm thinking like, carpal tunnel, think it might have been something with carpal tunnel syndrome, or anything that's like that. Let me ask you another thing in reference to the nervous system. I don't know if you ever heard of scleroderma.
I have,
Okay.
but I have to look it up. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but I do know it's autoimmune condition.
Yeah, it's autoimmune because because there's someone that I know that was diagnosed with scleroderma in 2017, and that person had to retire because of the condition.
What are symptoms?
Well, symptoms are kind of like the skin starts to tighten a little. But this person actually has a scar in the body. And I mean, this person's been lucky, But when I first that she's right now she's actually going through the chronic fatigue. I mean, she'll go out and do something, and then when she comes back, she's out on the couch for 10 hours.
Yeah.
So, but when I first came across the scleroderma, there was this one person. Her she was literally like her skin was like this, like she couldn't like her life practically was like this with her hands, where it got to the point where people were showering her and feeding her. I mean, she was able to drive in the video, but she was more restricted to because of the tightness of the skin and leading it to like that. Could I don't know within the nervous system what it is.
And the autonomic nervous system governs everything that's automatic. So, I mean, really, almost all conditions have a nervous system aspect to them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly all autoimmune conditions.
Okay. All right. So, in reference to like the tremors I have, is there a natural healing or a natural medicine that I can maybe look into?
I mean, I mean, there's, it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm kind of out of the game of like trying to just take symptoms away. Like I'm more of a root healing, long process over time kind of person because I want people to heal so wholly and so completely.
Right. That's kind of what I'm aiming at.
Yeah. So rewiring the nervous system is just a process, right? There's Irene Lyon, as you know, my mentor, has amazing programs out, and she's open for registration right now for her big course, Smart Body, Smart Mind. And that is more than enough information and education that anyone would need. Let me give you my link, my affiliate link to that. Joey, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
And you can put this in the.
That's what I was going to do.
Yeah,
you're not only are you a great expert, but you're a mind reader too.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do I put this in the? Here's the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll probably go to private chat if I see. Yeah, I see it. Hold on.
Okay.
All right. Give me one moment. Go back to comments on my end, and I will put it here.
Great.
And it's going to come up, and you'll be able to see it on the bottom of the screen now.
Great.
Yeah. So that's how you. That's one way that you can look.
Yeah. So I would recommend anyone who wants to heal from chronic symptoms and knows that there's dysregulation and trauma and stored survival stress, we call it, or adversity in the system that didn't get resolved. Maybe when you were a little one, maybe when you were older, or just throughout your life, things were not ever resolved. Things were not repressed. Things were very repressed. If you need the education, this is where you would go. Okay. That's where I started my journey. And it's going to you're going to get such a great education if you follow that program. Okay. And then if you do practices and the exercises, you are definitely going to start to see some changes. They also have an amazing Q&A platform in the program where you can write in your questions, your specific questions. And Irene's husband, Seth, who is phenomenally educated on this subject, will answer those questions in a live call. And those are really incredible to listen to because you can hear other people's stories, what other people are doing, other people's transformations, answering. As a practitioner, I, of course, love this because I get to hear all different types of, conditions and autoimmune things that, and different ways of working with the nervous system to heal this stuff. But yeah, education is really the first step so that we understand what's happening in our body and we know, and then we start to rewire the system and teach it a new way.
Okay. And how can people reach out to you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at somatic_intuitive. I also have a YouTube.
I actually printed out your Instagram bio in front of me just so that because that's, believe it or not, folks, that's how I met her, was through Instagram. And what I'm doing right now, and I did share with you on Instagram. I of course made mention to you of it. Right now, I'm attempting to upgrade the equipment that I use for this podcast, as well as doing like a meet and greet type, like maybe doing like a podcast palooza type, like not concert thing, but like a meet and greet thing. So,
cool.
So I'm going to put that back up for a moment. So if anybody's interested in contributing, it's a GoFundMe campaign. It's GoFundMe.com/manage/updating-and expanding-the-life with dashes in between, Life with Joey Calvo podcast. And please share it with everyone in your social media, because I'd like to, I really enjoy these podcasts, because one thing, when I was going through mental health, I was going to psychiatrists and psychologists and stuff. One psychiatrist turned around and said, "Oh, your podcast is your therapy." I was like, "What? Wait a minute here." Like,
now it makes sense.
But as the time has been going on, I've been starting to realize it is my therapy, and it's made me, got me towards, what happened last week with the cleansing and stuff, and it may not have changed my emotional feelings in reference to relationships,
but those things will still change over time.
Yeah.
Joey, I also put in the comments here in the chat. That is my YouTube information.
Okay.
I'm not quite as active on YouTube, but I do have a channel, Selden Integrative Healing. So if you want to put that.
I'm doing that right now. Oop. Okay. I put it in the wrong spot. Hold on.
No worries.
I sent it back to you.
That's fine.
Yeah. So there we go. All right. So you can check out the very beautiful Selden on Instagram at somatic_intuitive. Intuitive. Sorry. Tongue tied. I had a little, I can't say I had a little too much fun this morning. I got home.
Okay.
Because one thing, let me ask you this in closing. One thing I do, and it's kind of like, I use it as I call it a quote unquote getaway. But would one suggestion to help heal, like what's within you, nervous wise, is being in a different location? Like, say, for example, you get tired of being in the house and you want to get away for a day or two, like to the beach.
It depends on that person's environment and what's happening. If your home is a source of chronic stress for whatever reason, then if you feel better when you leave your home, then I would say that's indicative that, like, you might not be in a place that is like really supporting your healing. And that could be for a number of reasons. But sometimes, yeah, I mean, sometimes people do have to move to heal. And that it just depends on the situation, you know.
Okay.
Joey, thank you so much for having me.
I'm sorry I couldn't make it any longer. I mean, I enjoyed everything, and thank you so much for you bringing your expertise about the nervous system and possibly give me ideas on how I can holistically tremors.
Definitely look at my Irene's course here, Smart Body, Smart Mind, and just continue to follow her YouTube channel, follow her Instagram, and follow my YouTube and my Instagram, and you'll start to really start to understand how all these things work.
All right. Well, Selden, thank you so much for being a guest on the podcast. Anytime that you want to come on, just let me know. We'll be happy to,
Thanks, Joey.
You're welcome. And thank you so much, everyone, for watching the Life with Joey Calvin podcast. Have a great day. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.